the microphone or it's
it observes
strong enough that it's...
I think it observes. Okay, I will go near to him somewhere else here.
Okay, because he will speak from there.
Okay, no problem.
If he will not success in repairing...
No problem. மெசேஜ் போடுறேன் உங்களுக்கு 5000 ப்ரைம் யூடியூப் வச்சு பண்ணிங்கன்னா லைவ் வரும். மெசேஜ் அவங்க வீட்டுக்கு மெசேஜ் கொடுத்தேன். நான் கொடுத்துட்டேன் மெசேஜ் அக்கௌண்ட்.
dear professors, dear guests, and you, dear Father, I cordially welcome you to the defense of this doctoral dissertation. I'm asking for your understanding for this small delay due to technical problems, but I'm sure it will not have any impact on the quality of your presentation of this doctoral defense. The thesis written and defended today by Father David John LOURDUSAMY, which he wrote in the biblical section, is entitled The Paideon and Idea in Matthew, with a particular reference to the exegetical and theological study of Matthew 18:1-5. I am happy to welcome the members of the commission, Professor Jacinta Vegas, who is the moderator of the thesis, and Professor Father Agustin Aculonu, who is the censor. And just to introduce myself, I'm William Candozzi, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Theology. We open the defense with a prayer said by Father LOURDUSAMY, and then the candidate has 20 minutes for the presentation. This is followed by the comments and questions from the moderator and the censor. And finally, those present in the audience, so you also have a chance to ask the candidate questions regarding this topic. So please study for this.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where shall my help come from? My help shall come from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going and coming, both now and forever. May the seat of wisdom intercede and pray for us. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. The Paideon and Paideia in Matthew with a practical reference to the exegetical and theological study of Matthew 18:1-5. To Paides Thilomeison ente Basileaton uranon. The child is the greatest in the kingdom of God. Is one of the promising statements made by Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew in the background of 1st century AD socio-political and religious context of children. In the arena of the ancient world, where everything was approached with utilitarian mentality, including children, giving precedence and preference to children is something unique of Jesus, for which we don't find any parallel in Old Testament or rabbinic literature. All four evangelists express Jesus' love for children through his words and deeds and messages and miracles. It reaches its height in the two important pronouncements of Jesus in Matthew, as the children are the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom belongs to them. As he highlights the children, Matthew focuses on all those who turn and become like children as well. Statement of the problems. From the chosen text, the problems identified are: the disciples are called to become like little children in verse 3. In verses 1-5, Paideon and Paideia are used for 4 times. Why is Matthew using both the Paideon singular and Paideia plural? Whether the physical child presented here is only symbolic or has any role to play in the gospel and the community. When these Paideon and Paideia to Basileaton uranon 3 times in these 5 verses, what is the meaning of telling like little children concerning the kingdom of heaven? Whether all those who are mentioned as belonging to the Basileaton uranon in other passages of the gospel are also connected to Paideon and Paideia. When Jesus says, "If whoever shall receive one such child in the name of me receives me," in verse 5, does he simply identify himself with a child, or does he identify himself as a child? Thus Jesus becomes a child among the disciples. Who is the Paideon and who is the Paidia? How do we identify him? Thesis statement. The term Paideon in Matthew 18:1-5 not only denotes the physical child present there, rather everyone with similar characters of a child mentioned in Matthew 18:4. If the disciples turn and humble themselves, they will also become like little children. Since the entry into kingdom, they come into an intimate relation with the poor in spirit and the righteous, who are already promised the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, turning and becoming like a child doesn't indicate humility alone. It includes turning and becoming like the poor in spirit and the righteous. As we observe in Matthew, the kingdom is promised to the poor in spirit and to the righteous only once. Instead, it is promised to the children twice. It invokes our curiosity and attention. Why is such importance given to the children? Who are they? Scholarly survey. Various opinions of the scholars. According to the interpretation of the fathers of the church, who is this child can be expounded in three ways. First, for John Chrysostom, this child is a real child. As the minor child is free from envy, vainglory, passion, and longing for first place, he becomes an accurate model of humility, simplicity, and unworldliness. Second, St. Martial and St. Jerome would propose this child as Jesus himself as a perfect example for humble ones. And the child stands for innocence. Hence, the disciples are supposed to be innocent and unassuming. The third identification of the child is the Holy Spirit according to Origen. Since he is the spirit of humility who humbled himself for the sake of the salvation of human beings, the disciples are called to turn to the Holy Spirit in their midst to learn humility from him. Modern scholars and commentators have varied opinions regarding this understanding and the identification of Paideon and Paidia. Andrew Oman and Rizal declare that child is an illustrative figure here to advise the members of the Matthean community to be away from priority, position, glory, and wealth, and an image of powerlessness and marginalization. The three titles found in Matthew chapter 18, child, little ones, and brother, are common titles for fellow community members. According to Davies and Allison, to become a child has nothing to do with innocence or simplicity or sinlessness, but is a call for humility. But Gundi proposes a contrary opinion stating that, like this child, alludes to the low estate the children occupied in the ancient world, not humility. In line with him, Luz focuses on the powerlessness of the children. The words pais and paideon can also mean slave in Greek, denoting the legal standing of the children. The physical size as well as their powerlessness depict their low social estate. Adding to that, May states that children must be analyzed on the social status in the first century world and not on the assumed characteristics of them. And these children represent all those marginalized and dominated, the least in the social structure, overlooked and exploited because of their vulnerability. In line with it, Warren Carter agrees that they are weak and few, powerless before the political, economic, and social elite. Yet, they are Jesus' agents commissioned by him. Mervyn Love singles them out as disciples and missionaries who have humbled themselves as least in the kingdom, but will be regarded later as more significant than John the Baptist. From the above analysis, we understand that children are either connected to the disciples on a mission or considered lowly, vulnerable, and powerless in the social position. Originality and limitation of the present state. The various opinions of the scholars lead us to comprehend the concept of children as either physiological or sociological. Instead, the importance of children found in Matthew directs us to investigate further to unveil its real meaning. This thesis attempts to discover the specificity of these children in Matthew. Though there are many scholarly works and articles written on the theme of children in the Bible in general, and on this pericope in particular by modern scholars like Sharon Baysworth, Marcia Bunge, Christine Garome, Sean Flynn, Cornelia Horn, Naomi Steinberg, and two doctoral dissertations, one by William Thomas in 1970 and the next by Nicoletta Gatti in 2007 on Matthew 18. No specific attempt has been made so far to single out whom Matthew denotes in his Paideon and Paidia. Is it possible now to recognize them from this text itself? Has Matthew given any clues to know them? Do Paideon and Paidia have got any textual and contextual link with the rest of the Gospel? What are the key terms that increase our quest to locate them? With these questions in mind, I try to explore my research and approach these children, keeping behind the power struggle and the tension within the Matain community. Since the question of who is the greatest indicates that such tension existed within the community. In this historical context of conflict, I would like to analyze the child and the children in Matthew from the socio-political and religious situations of the first century Matain community and how this text can have a positive impact today in our context. At the same time, I humbly acknowledge that this dissertation doesn't investigate deeper into the Christological and ecclesiological objectives that are dealt with by Matthew in his fourth discourse. Method of study. The main focus of this research work is solely based on the chosen text. The method of study adopted in this dissertation is synchronic with the help of grammatical, syntactic, semantic, and exegetical tools. So by applying these tools, I try to explore the meaning of paideia and paideia concerning basileia known in the Gospel of Matthew, with a particular reference to Matthew 18:1-5. To have a more precise and deep understanding of the text, we consult with Old Testament books and other Jewish writings, rabbinic literatures, Qumran documents, and books of pseudepigraphy. This text is read in its socio-political, historical, and theological backgrounds to arrive at the message it delivers to the readers today. General outline of the text. This dissertation is divided into 4 chapters. Under the heading Children in Ancient Society, the first chapter aims to acquire knowledge about the lives of children in ancient Near Eastern, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman cultures. Invariably, all ancient societies welcome children predominantly for progeny and to use them as a workforce. Another reason why childbirth was appreciated was that children would have care of the parents during their old age. In other respect, childhood was a period of agony and misery. Many ancient civilizations offered children as a sacrifice to their gods to appease them or receive blessings from them. The families were primarily paterfamilias. Hence, the head of the family had a crucial role in the survival of a child. In some cultures, the paterfamilias had the right to abandon unwanted children from their families, especially girls and physically and mentally challenged. These abandoned children were easy prey for sexual and household slavery or died in abandonment. Children remained voiceless and vulnerable. They had to obey the paterfamilias without fail. They were deprived of any family or social rights. Instead, they lived in a position equal to the slaves. Moreover, at times children were even lower than the slaves. Added to it, the existence of girl children was always an option of the head of the family, since their only duties were to take care of the house and progeny. The children of free men were equally vulnerable and were dangerous. But unfortunately, they could not safeguard themselves from the threat of sexual abuse of the elders, the teachers, and even the slaves of the families at times. Children of both genders are such a danger. The survival of children as infants was not an easy affair. Malnutrition and lack of medical facilities became a reason for the death of many kids at birth or later as infants. However, the mortality of children was not a severe issue for the ancient people. On the contrary, it was a regular affair. Therefore, parents did not pay much attention to it, and children never even received proper mourning and solemn burial. Thus, our study on the children in ancient society sheds more light to comprehend their historicity. They neither smelled freedom nor received equal treatment with others. Hence, we observe that children were the most vulnerable in any ancient society. The second chapter concentrates on the children in the Bible. This chapter has sharp eyes on the theme of children in both Old and New Testaments. We consult the books of Pentateuch, prophets, and the wisdom literature of the Old Testament, and in the New Testament, leaving behind the books written after Matthew, we analyze only Paul and the Synoptic Gospels concerning the events, teachings, and instructions connected to the theme of children. This approach helps us to observe the mind of ancient Israel regarding children in different historical periods. One striking and admiring thing is that the Bible is more optimistic towards children. First, Israel celebrated children as Yahweh's gifts and hailed childbirth as his blessing. In comparison to other ancient cultures, ancient Israel protected well the welfare of children through laws and customs. Though we find many positive attitudes towards children in the Old Testament, we can also observe some negative points against their lives. In line with other ancient cultures, until their adulthood, children were valuables in Israel. They murdered children in the name of religion as sacrifice, abandoned them in the desert, sold them in slavery. In short, children did not enjoy their dignity as human beings, instead were treated as properties. The wisdom thoughts also controlled them to fear and obey God and the elders in order to acquire wisdom and knowledge. So they struggled under the clutches of instructions and regulations. In contrast, the attitude of Jesus to children was quite the opposite. Since he underwent all rejection sufferings in life by himself, Jesus offered models for the kingdom of God, which no rabbi or Jewish religious leader had done before. Such was Jesus' love for the children. He identified himself with them by saying that when his disciples accept a child in his name, they accept him. Jesus, the vulnerable, could identify and embrace the children, the least and the lowly in any society as his own. With these positive notes in mind, we move on to children in the Gospel of Matthew with a particular reference to Matthew 18:5, which forms chapter 3. This is an introduction to the community discourse in Matthew 18. We can be assured that this pericope will open new windows on Jesus' approach to children. As we make an extensive historical study on Matthew 18:1-5 in this chapter, we identify the placement of this passage within the cycle of Capernaum to Capernaum. It begins with the parables of the kingdom, reaches its climax in transfiguration, and ends after the community discourse. We also notice Peter's profession of faith and two passion predictions within this Capernaum to Capernaum episode, which play an essential role in grasping the fuller meaning of our passage. This teaching of Jesus on children immediately follows the discussion between Jesus and Peter on paying the temple tax that envied other disciples about Peter's prominence among them. Without making any quarrel among themselves, they approach Jesus for clarification. This question brings in new teachings on the lowest in the society as the greatest in the kingdom. After a close and intense study, we can grab detailed knowledge of these verses by using different syntactic and exegetic tools. The Greek originals render us a vast and new understanding of each verse. Hence, we approach each verse phrase by phrase. The presence of a physical child uses the symbolic meaning of turning and becoming like them through humility. It is a call given to all the disciples to become like children in humility. Matthew highlights not only the importance of children, but also all those who become like children in spirit. The syntactic and exegetic examination of the terms like paidion, paidi, refukai, grigomai, tapeino, meizon, dexomai, and so on, open up new perception on children according to the mind of Jesus. The uniqueness of Spirico, in my view, is the use of terms paidion, paidi, and strength. Jesus exemplifies the most humiliated one of the children as models for greatness. His children concept never stops here. It moves further to invite the grown-ups, the disciples, to turn back and become like them. Jesus gives three assurances when they do so, namely entry into the kingdom, greatness in the same, and reception of Jesus himself. Therefore, the exegetical study of these texts help us to understand the children and the children in spirit. The comprehension of the children in spirit leads us to explore further to find out who these people are. Can they be men of man? The term paidia unveils the intention of Jesus that it is the term for the children in spirit through the physical paidia. We approach this new concept from three perspectives, namely meizon, basileaton, uranon, emedexetai, that he is the greatest of the kingdom of heaven, and Jesus himself as a symbolic child. The disciples ask about the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Matthew already mentions that the followers of law are great, and the persons who are very low in the kingdom of heaven are greater than John the Baptist. Here he speaks about the child as the greatest in the kingdom. The child is the least in any society. Likewise, all those who are degraded as the least in the community become greatest in the kingdom. Hence, for Matthew, the least on earth is the greatest in the kingdom. Again, Jesus assures that only children can enter into heaven since it belongs to them. At the same time, the kingdom belongs to the poor in spirit, Matthew 5:3, and righteous, Matthew 5:10. They are the other two categories of people who share the kingdom along with the children in spirit. As the poor in spirit belong to the kingdom through their absolute dependence on God, the righteous through persecution, the children in spirit open the gate of kingdom through childlike humility. In my opinion, as the term paidion identifies the vulnerable child present among the disciples, paidia denotes all those who are lowly and vulnerable by being poor in spirit, by being righteous, and by turning and becoming like children in humility. They are the paidia mentioned in Matthew 18:3, therefore they are the children in spirit.